They thought Earth was nothing, just a forgotten rock, drifting on the edge of the galaxy. No fleets, no allies, no threat. But then, one human ship appeared, and with a single shot, erased an entire war fleet. Now. Every empire wants to know what kind of monsters live on that planet. Because if the stories are true, it's already too late. The galaxy thought humanity was weak, but they were wrong. So very very wrong. And by the time they learned the truth, it was already too late. Because the galaxy thought humanity was weak, but they were wrong. So very very wrong. Earth was nothing to them. Just a forgotten rock, drifting on the edge of space. No fleets. No allies. No threat. Until one day, a single human ship appeared, with a single shot, erased an entire war fleet. Now, the most powerful empires are asking the same question. What kind of monsters live on that planet? And how many more of them are out there? Far beyond the busy trade routes and shining worlds of the Galactic Union. Past the nebula gates and the Empire's watchful patrols lay a quiet corner of the spiral arm where no one bothered to go. They're circling an ordinary yellow star. It was a small blue world. They called it South 3, a backwater, unimportant. For centuries, no alien map even bothered to mark it. It wasn't worth the ink. To the great powers of the galaxy, it was nothing but a primitive rock, a place that would never join the Union. It's never matter in the grand game of politics and war, at least. That's what they believed, the day everything changed began in the cold silence between two asteroid belts. A Union patrol ship, the Varith's Pride, was running its usual sweep, searching for smugglers, pirates, anything worth reporting. On the bridge, Captain Xyler leaned lazily in his command chair, his long-scaled fingers tapping against the armrest. His crew were bored, and bored crews like to talk. Another sweep of empty space, muttered the helmsman. Why do we even waste time on this sector? Xyler smirked. Because the Council likes maps without holes, and because they pay us to be here. A ripple of laughter passed across the bridge, but then the laughter stopped. Captain, I'm getting something on long-range sensors, said the comms officer, her frilled head crest twitching in surprise. Unknown signal, origin point, Sol system. Xyler leaned forward. Sol system, that's uninhabited, isn't it? Officially? Yes, but this isn't background noise, Captain. It's a transmission. Put it on. A harsh crackle filled the air. The voice that came through was deep, human. It wasn't asking for help. This is the warship Vanguard. You're entering human space. Leave immediately. Or be destroyed. The crew stared at each other. Warship? The weapons? Officer scoffed. Humans barely have fusion drives. This has to be a joke. Xyler's eyes narrowed. Locate the source.
Ow.
Moments later, the display lit up with an image, and the bridge went silent. It wasn't a Union design. It wasn't any design they knew. A single dark, angular warship drifted in the void ahead, its hull bristling with weapons their scanners couldn't even identify. Primitive? The helmsman whispered. That's not primitive. The alien captain did not believe what he had just heard. A single ship from a forgotten world had dared to threaten the pride of the Empire's patrol fleet. Captain Xyler's crest stiffened in irritation. Threats were nothing new in his career, but this was absurd. We're supposed to be barely spacefaring, scraping together old fusion drives and scavenged technology. They were supposed to be harmless. The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to laugh or to feel insulted. Send them a warning, Xyler ordered, his voice cold. Remind them who they are speaking to. The comms officer opened a channel, her voice dripping with disdain. This is the Varith's Pride of the Galactic Union. Stand down, unknown vessel, or be boarded. You have no right to threaten us. Silence followed. For a heartbeat, it seemed the humans would comply, and the voice returned, even calmer than before. Last chance. Leave human space, or you will be destroyed. Zyler's eyes narrowed. The audacity burned in his veins. To target their engines, he snapped. Let's show them what real weapons can do. The Varith's Pride powered up its railguns and plasma cannons. The crew worked quickly, certain the human ship would either run or surrender. No one considered what would happen if it didn't. First shot left the barrels with a blinding flash, streaking toward the dark warship. But before it could even reach its target, the human ship moved. No slow burn, no predictable arc. It vanished from its position in a sudden burst of acceleration so violent that even the sensors struggled to track it. It reappeared directly above the Varith's Pride. A single blue-white glow pulsed from its underside, and in the next instant, the patrol ship's shields failed completely. Every alarm screamed at once, scanners filled with unreadable data. The crew didn't understand what had happened, only that their defenses were gone. The human vessel fired one shot. The beam tore through the Varith's Pride like it was paper. Bulkheads melted, decks ripped open to the void. Within seconds, half the ship was gone, and the other half was dying. Captain Zyler barely had time to order an evacuation before the systems failed entirely. Far away, in the communication relays of the Union, the news began to spread. A patrol ship had been destroyed, not by pirates, not by an enemy empire, but by a single human warship. The galaxy had dismissed humanity for centuries. The name human was spoken with something new in the voice, something close to fear in the dark halls of the Empire's capital. Military leaders gathered around holographic displays. There were no more jokes about Earth. No one called it primitive now. Instead, the Emperor's orders were clear: send a fleet. Find out what the humans truly are. Crush them before they become a threat. And in the cold void above the Sol system, the lone human ship drifted silently, waiting, as if it already knew they were coming. The stars shimmered like cold fire as the Imperial fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 10 warships emerged in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the pale light of a distant sun. Each ship was a city of steel, armed with weapons that had broken empires and ended rebellions. For centuries, no enemy had withstood them. The lead vessel, the Imperial Spear, cut through space with the slow, deliberate confidence of a predator. On its bridge, Admiral Kor stood tall, his uniform flawless, his crest adorned with the golden marks of a war hero. He had fought in dozens of campaigns. He had crushed fleets that had dared to defy the Empire. And now, he was here for a single backwater planet no one had cared about before. Reports had been brief but disturbing. A single human ship destroying a Union patrol vessel in seconds. Impossible, laughable, and yet, the patrol ship was gone, and there was wreckage to prove it. This will be swift, Kor said, his voice steady. The humans have 1 warship. We have 10. They will either surrender or vanish. The fleet pushed deeper into the Sol system, passing cold asteroids and empty planets. Sensors swept the void, searching for signs of resistance. Then they saw it. Ahead, in the shadow of a distant moon, dozens of warships emerged. They were human, angular, dark, bristling with weapons. Some looked new. Others bore the scars of countless battles, patched and upgraded beyond recognition. And there were far more than just one. On the Imperial Spear's bridge, the crew fell silent. "What is this?" the sensor officer whispered. "There shouldn't be this many. This is impossible." The human ships didn't rush forward. They didn't fire first. They simply held formation, like predators watching their prey approach. A transmission came through. The voice was deep, calm, and unmistakably human. "You've made a mistake coming here." For the first time in many years, Admiral Kor felt something unfamiliar crawl up his spine. It wasn't anger. It wasn't pride. It was unease. And as the human fleet began to move, that unease turned to something far colder. The first shot came not from the humans, but from the Empire. Admiral Kor had given the order, confident that overwhelming firepower would end the standoff in seconds. The Imperial Spear's forward batteries lit up, releasing a wave of plasma bolts and kinetic rounds. The other 9 warships joined in, their fire painting the void with deadly light. The human fleet did not scatter. They did not rush forward. Instead, they moved together, as if guided by one mind. Their formation shifted in perfect unison, each ship sliding into a position that made the incoming fire almost meaningless. The first salvo tore through empty space, missing entirely. The few shots that did land slammed into shimmering human shields, and those shields didn't even flicker. Core frowned. Great power, break their lines. The Imperial fleet pressed harder, pouring everything into the attack. But the humans, they waited, then they struck. A single command seemed to ripple through their coms, and the dark ships surged forward. They moved with impossible acceleration, weaving between enemy fire, closing the distance before the Imperial crews could adjust. The first human shot was a narrow beam of white light. Out. It punched straight through an Imperial cruiser from bow to stern, slicing it in half before the crew even knew they'd been hit. The wreck drifted in silence, a dead monument to arrogance. Panic began to spread across the Imperial channels. These weapons, they're bypassing shields. We can't lock onto their drives. They're gods. They're inside our formation. The humans fought without hesitation. They didn't target the smaller ships. They went straight for the command vessels, severing the Empire's coordination with surgical precision. Every shot counted. Every movement was lethal. Admiral Kor gripped the edge of the halotable, his claws digging into the metal. This wasn't a battle, it was an execution. One by one, his ships were falling, and the humans had yet to lose even one. Retreat, he barked at last, his voice breaking through the chaos. Signaled the fleet. Fall back now. Engines flared as the surviving Imperial ships turned to flee, broken and burning. But before they could escape, a human voice cut across every channel. Running will not save you. And then the humans followed. The void was silent. But the survivors of the Imperial fleet could feel the humans behind them, their ships. Limped through hyperspace, hulls scorched, shields gone, engines straining to stay ahead. Every captain aboard knew the truth. This wasn't a retreat, it was a chase. And the humans were the predators. In the command chamber of the Imperial, Spear, Admiral Kor paced in tight circles. His crew avoided his gaze, not because they feared his anger, but because they feared what was coming. They won't follow this far, Kor muttered, almost to himself. They wouldn't dare cross into Imperial space. But even as he said it, the sensors began to ping. Dozens of signatures, familiar, deadly. They're here, whispered the sensor officer. The human fleet had entered hyperspace right behind them. No hesitation, no pause, to regroup. They were faster, smarter, and they were closing the gap. Back on the human flagship, the warship Vanguard Commander Hale watched the Imperial ships run. His expression didn't change. His voice was calm, almost bored as he gave the order. Stay on them, no survivors. One by one, human ships dropped out of hyperspace just long enough to strike a beam of light cutting down a fleeing destroyer. A missile finding the exposed reactor of a damaged cruiser. Then they vanished back into the chase, always hunting, never letting the prey rest in the markets and stations along the Imperial border. Civilians began to hear the rumors. Strange ships had been seen in the void, their hulls dark, their movements silent. They did not raid, they did not bargain. They simply appeared, and something died. Whispers spread through the crowded streets. They're Death Worlders. They don't stop, they don't fear anything. On the third day of pursuit, the humans finally cornered part of the fleeing fleet near the gas giant Vorthon. The Imperials turned to fight because there was nowhere left to run. The battle lasted less than 7 minutes. When it was over, the humans had destroyed 8 ships and taken 1 prisoner, a high-ranking Imperial fleet commander. Hale ordered the prisoner brought aboard the Vanguard. The humans didn't celebrate their victory. They didn't speak of the hunt. They simply prepared for the next move. Because in human war doctrine, a captured enemy wasn't a trophy. Was a weapon. The Imperial prisoner sat alone in the cold interrogation chamber of the Vanguard. Thick steel walls surrounded him, the lights dim except for a single beam above his head. His armor had been stripped away, replaced by a plain gray jumpsuit. He had fought in more battles than he could count. But nothing had prepared him for this. The door slid open with a slow, deliberate hiss. Commander Hale stepped inside, his boots echoing on the metal floor. 2 human Marines followed, silent as shadows, their weapons resting casually in their hands. The prisoner's eyes narrowed. He had expected shouting, threats, violence. But Hal only pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "You've been in the Imperial fleet for what, 50 years?" Hale asked, his voice calm, almost polite. The prisoner said nothing. Hale leaned forward slightly. "You've fought pirates, rebels, rival empires. You've won. Most of the time. But tell me," his gaze sharpened, "have you ever fought something that didn't fear you?" The alien shifted uncomfortably, his crest flattening against his skull. Hale smiled faintly. "You think Earth is new to war? That we just learned to fight? That's cute." He tapped a small control on the table. A hologram flickered to life between the ancient ships, scarred worlds, burning skies, images of humans in crude armor, in steel tanks, in massive warships from centuries past. Battles fought long before the Empire even existed. "You see," Hale continued, "we've been here before. We had fleets, colonies, interstellar war, centuries ago. Then we disappeared." The prisoner frowned. "Why? How?" Hale's smile widened just enough to show teeth. "'Cause we realized something. We weren't ready. The galaxy wasn't. Ready so? We went home. We rebuilt. We prepared. And we watched." The alien's pulse quickened. "For what?" Hale leaned back, his eyes never leaving the prisoner's. "For the day we'd need to fight again." The room fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's engines. Hale stood, signaling to the Marines. "Send him back to his cell. We have what we need." As the Marines led the prisoner away, a thought gnawed at him if this was what humans had built in secret. What else were they hiding? Far away, deep in the Imperial capital, leaders were already hearing whispers of the interrogation. Across the galaxy, fleets began to mobilize. Because if humanity had been preparing for centuries, stopping them might already be impossible. The galaxy had never agreed on much. Empires fought over borders, trade routes, and pride. But now, for the first time in centuries, they agreed on one thing: humanity had to be stopped. The Imperial fleets sent out calls to their rivals. Former enemies signed temporary pacts. Dozens of alien worlds poured resources into a single cause to build an armada large enough to crush Earth before it could strike again. In the hidden war rooms of the Vanguard, human intelligence officers tracked every move. The galaxy thought it was preparing in secret. It wasn't. Every signal, every deployment, every ship launch was already on human screens. Commander Hale stood over the star map, watching enemy icons multiply across the sectors. His voice was quiet, but the crew felt the weight behind his words. They think numbers will save them. They're wrong. The first strikes came fast. Alien fleets targeted human colonies on the edges of explored space. They expected easy victories, isolated outposts with minimal defenses. Instead, they found bunkers dug into mountains, automated railguns that tracked their ships with impossible precision, and soldiers who fought until their last breath. On the colony of Astorvale, a single human squad held off 3 full regiments. For over 12 hours, by the time the aliens broke through, the defenders were gone, vanished into the forest, leaving behind traps that destroyed half the pursuing forces. Panic began to spread. These were not the desperate, untrained humans the galaxy imagined. Think they fought like predators. They didn't waste time on defense, they struck at the heart. Within weeks, human fleets were deep in enemy space. They targeted supply lines, shipyards, and command centers. Every strike was precise, devastating, and left no survivors. In the Galactic Council chambers, leaders argued over what to do next. Some demanded peace. Others called for total war. But all of them had one thing in common: fear. Back on the Vanguard, Hell stared at the star map one last time before giving the order. Prepare the weapon. No one asked which weapon. They already knew. It was the one they had sworn never to use unless the galaxy left them no choice. The weapon had no name, not officially. In the quiet halls of Earth's military command, it was only called the End. Hidden for centuries in a sealed orbital vault above the moon, it had never been used. Not in civil wars. Not in border conflicts. Not even when humanity's colonies were attacked in the early days. It was a last resort. And that day had come. The Allied alien fleet was the largest in recorded history. Hundreds of warships from dozens of species, stretching across an entire sector of space. They moved toward Earth like a tide of metal and fire, confident that no force could stop them. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Commander Hale watched their approach. His crew worked in silence, their faces lit by the cold glow of tactical screens. When the fleet entered range, Hale gave the order. Arm it. Far above the moon, the vault opened. A single, sleek cylinder black as the void slid into position. It didn't look dangerous. It didn't glow or hum. It was quiet. Like a predator before the strike. The alien commanders laughed when they saw it. A single launch pod against their entire fleet. It was absurd. And then the cylinder vanished. In a flash of light, an instant later, every ship in the lead formation went dark. No explosions, no debris, just gone, erased from existence. The panic spread faster than the blast itself. Shields failing. We're losing power there. They're killing us without firing. The weapon tore through the fleet like a ghost, jumping from target to target in impossible bursts of speed. In less than 15 minutes, over half the armada was gone. The rest turned to flee, their formations breaking into chaos. Hale's voice carried over every open channel, calm and certain. We warned you. Humanity does not start wars, but we will finish them. No one challenged him. No one tried to fight back. The survivors scattered into the depths of the galaxy. Carrying stories of the day, Earth stood alone against the united might of the stars. And one from that day forward, Earth was no longer called a forgotten rock. It was spoken of and hushed. Tones with the same respect and fear reserved for forces of nature, because the galaxy had learned the truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Not ever again.